the longer you're there, the more toxic it is, and it's got an accumulative effect. And just simply, like you said, being in a place where the nutrition isn't present, the ability to sleep isn't present, the ability to even relax. Like, you can't let your guard down when you're incarcerated, because at any second something could happen, and might, and probably will. And whether it's coming from a guard or somebody next to you or some unknown, who knows, you're on a sense of high alert all the time. And the cost of that, the cortisol levels being constantly taxed, I believe is hugely detrimental to our immune system.
Got a lot of love, yeah, that's for sure. You got music and movies, and friends and medicine. Yeah, is the show for me and you, the one you love to listen to. And ooh, you got your friends, see it through. See, 'cause laughter is medicine too. Said it's medicine too, babe.
Welcome to the Wendy Love Edge Show, brought to you by Caris Healthcare and the Relevant app.
We don't dispense medical advice, and all your health choices are your own.
And the opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of a producer, A-Edge Productions.
This is season 6, episode 4, Prisons, Health, and Wellness. And I'm Wendy Love Edge, and this is my co-host, Branden Lee.
Yes, or Prison Mike. We can do Prison Mike.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I know. I was saying to you, this is such a serious subject, but we can still have a little bit of levity, I think.
Well, of course. And we all know that it's a serious subject. I think you were just telling me some facts off of air, and how many people are dealing with this, and families. So I think it touches all of us in some way or another, I think, the prison system and the way things go.
I think so. I mean, we have the largest incarcerated population in the entire world here in the United States.
Land of the free.
It's right. And I want to read some of those statistics for people in case they're not aware of the scope of the problem. So according to the Bureau of Justice statistics from June 2021, 22.5% of jail inmates are serving time for violent offenses. So that's only 22.5%. 46% are there for non-violent property or public order offenses. And according to the Prison Policy Initiative, there are over 10.6 million people admitted to jail each year, enough to fill a line of buses bumper to bumper from New York to San Francisco.
That is insane. So this is and you said every year, not just like right now. Every year people are booked that much.
Every year in jail. So, you know, there's jail, right, in your state and your county, and then there's the prison system. You know, it's all very complicated, but the stats are really saying a lot of people who are imprisoned didn't commit violent offenses. You know, there's lots of people in for drug offenses, for cannabis especially. You know,
isn't it crazy that people are there in prison for cannabis, and then other people are wearing three-piece suits selling it in the same breath in the same country?
Yes,
pretty insane.
It makes me so angry, actually. You know, because there's a green rush, really, what's been happening. And you know, in speaking to someone who was incarcerated in the past, they were telling me how they could see the TV with the states legalizing cannabis while they're behind bars for the plant. You know,
how
I mean,
frustrating would that be? You know, and I was telling you a little bit about this. Like in different states are different rules.
Mhm.
Here in our state, you get caught with marijuana, you don't have any license or anything like that. You can go to jail and you can definitely potentially go to prison. You
Right.
go to Colorado, you get a high five from the police officers.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing to live in the same country and have different rules in different areas.
Yeah, it doesn't, it's certainly not fair, that's for sure. And we definitely need a change. And, so with the premise of this show, I really wanted to talk about how so many people are incarcerated that just the threat of prison for very minor things sometimes, like, oh, I didn't have enough money to renew my tags or my car insurance. And when they stopped me, I still didn't have the money. So then I got stopped again. And
Yeah.
now I'm facing giant fines and or some prison time.
Right. They can't pay those fines. And the next thing you know, they're having to go to prison because they can't afford to do
Right.
anything, pay these things. What's crazy, Wendy, you look on the other side, we're paying for that. We pay
Yeah.
for that. You and
Right.
I and everyone else pays for people to go to prison.
Mhm.
I'd rather just pay her bill. Like let's pay
Right.
for her tags,
Right. We're,
Like
we're
I
talking
feel
about,
like
our neighbors, our friends,
yeah,
humanity, right? And the fact that we have so many people incarcerated, it all boils down to money.
of
Uh,
course.
you
Everything
know,
does in this country, right?
mhm. And so here we are with what I think is a health crisis because of this situation. I think, when we talk about conditions in prison, we're in a pandemic right now. What's happened with the prisons and COVID-19?
Yeah.
When apart from that, the food that's served in the prison is mostly processed food that
Yeah, only
is
unless you
not
get
healthy.
arrested, like only unless you're a senator and get arrested, you're not going to get nice food.
Right.
I follow this guy on TikTok that actually makes prison food, and it's everything, something really incredible, really inventive for what they do
Really?
and how they do stuff. Everything from tamales made with hot Cheetos and
My
cheese
gosh.
whiz and all sorts of desserts and
Uh-huh.
drinks and stuff like that. He goes on his TikTok and shows what he used to make in prison. He's not in prison anymore, but
Uh-huh.
what he used to make, and it's pretty amazing and pretty incredible the way that people adapt, even in
Right.
prison for prison life. And yeah, it's not good for their health. It's not good for anyone's health.
Right. But at least he made it, tried to find a way to make it interesting and fun, I guess. And
Exactly.
but when you think about all of that, um, you know, the conditions themselves, the fact that people adapt to it makes it really hard for them when they come out of prison, when they're on the
Exactly.
outside,
Yep. You're making
and
that adaptation, and then you have to go back to regular life, and that can be difficult.
right. And the recidivism rate or the return to prison is like 50% of people end up back in. And it's also a really complicated thing. We talk about it a little later in the panel discussion, because the Human Solution International is creating a program of mentors to help people when they are released from prison to be successful. An ongoing program of mentorship, which the system doesn't provide.
They just take you in like it's sort of like your pet gets cut off the streets or something. They just take you in, put you in jail, and then release you when your time is done. And sometimes
Mhm.
it's crazy, Wendy, that sometimes people that are violent offenders get out early,
Right.
and some people that are not violent offenders are there under the jail for a long time. And it just
Mhm.
comes down to really what state you're in, what judge you're in front of, what panel, what all these different things that people do to get out their sentences. And
Right.
it's crazy and it's chaotic. And
It
I think
is.
there's a reason why it is. They
Right.
make a
And
lot of
it,
money off of making it chaotic.
right, for sure. And again, it just adds to that stress for people in their day-to-day lives. So many people are in prison. Is it going to be me next? What is that going to be like? And
Right. And
then
not
the
only that one
fear.
person, yeah, not only that one person, but the whole family, you know,
Right.
got to think about, if someone that is messing up a little bit or, is not on the right path, mom, dad, all the kids, all the, I have a family member, Wendy, that a couple actually that have been experienced the prison system.
Oh, I'm
And
so sorry.
it's stress on everyone, the whole family.
Mhm. Right. Right. And so that adds to this idea of, unfortunately, this health crisis, the fight or flight. There's already so much trauma in our world, and this is just, intense trauma in many cases. I mean, I was reading that 80,000 women and men per year are sexually assaulted in prisons.
And they have that, it's a rumor or a fact, if you will, that when you go to prison, these are the things that you experience. That's sort of just the stigma that's attached that, oh, well, when you go to prison, you get sexually abused. Like that is, everyone knows that. It's a known thing. And that's when it gets really scary, especially as you talked about, you don't want to go. So all those, even mental health crisis can be even before you even make it or get arrested even.
Right.
So if you experience this,
Right. And then, we talked a little bit about the conditions there and the food but also, ventilation systems, like there's just, it's not a place that well, let's just say it, it's dehumanizing,
For sure. And it's incredibly disappointing that in the land of the free that we have the most imprisoned. And it is, I think it really does come down to financial reasons, people's jobs. It employs, you think about the prison system, employs all those prison guards, all the judges, all the lawyers, and everyone that is in there, the staff. Those people make money and pay their bills by imprisoning other people. And you got to start thinking about, like, where do we stop? Where does it stop?
Right.
Are we all going to be in prison one day? It kind of feels like it.
Yeah, it's frightening.
It's
it's frightening. But I'm really glad that the Human Solution International has this project to help people when they come out. So hopefully they won't go back. And they're doing so much education. So coming up next, I will be interviewing a panel from that organization. I went to the dispensary and I'm like, this is so great, and I give them my green for the green. I'm so excited and confused because people who do that out in the street, they're still getting arrested. They're handing their green for green and they're still getting arrested, or they're still in prison, even though I can walk into this place. Joe Grumbine was formerly incarcerated for the cannabis plant on more than one occasion. He is the founder of the Human Solution International and the CEO of Willow Creek Springs. Welcome back to the show, Joe.
Hey, Wendy, glad to be here.
Wonderful. Also joining me is Jackie Barnett. Jackie is a medicine woman who travels the world to spread love and healing and acts as a catalyst in her community for Indigenous restitution and fair human rights for all. She is a volunteer with the Human Solution International as well. Welcome to the show, Jackie.
Thank you, Wendy.
Nice to see you.
You too, thank you.
Also joining me is Craig Cesal. He was also formerly incarcerated for the cannabis plant and now works to help those he left behind and is currently working with the Human Solution International on the community reentry program. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Oh, welcome again, Wendy.
Yes. And last but not least, Candis Dyer is also joining us. She is a member of the board of directors for the Human Solution International and founder of the Human Solution International Texas chapter. She's also the creator and host of Cannacorner, and of course, the creator and host of Mile High News right here on the Wendy Love Ed Show. Welcome, Candis.
Hey, everyone.
I'm so glad that you're all here. This is really exciting and a really important topic. So today we're talking about how the prison complex kind of affects all of our health and wellness. And my first question is a little bit lengthy, if you can bear with me. And here's the question. The U.S. incarcerates more human beings, both in absolute numbers and percent of population, than any nation in the world. This disproportionately affects marginalized populations like the poor, Black and Brown individuals, and individuals with disabilities. In addition, those who have been incarcerated face higher risk of chronic health conditions while confined and after release, higher suicide rates, and more. Prison itself, with poor sanitation, ventilation, and food, creates public health issues. After release, previously incarcerated individuals have higher mortality rates. In fact, a 2015 study showed that for each year of incarceration, a human being loses 2 years of their life. It seems to me that the prison complex here in the US is creating a massive public health crisis. What are your thoughts about all this, Joe Grumbine?
Well, I completely agree with that premise, and there's so much to talk about. I guess I have to peel it away to a single point of view, but when you look at trauma, which anybody who is involved in the criminal justice system is going to endure, simply just from being arrested all the way through processing through the court system and being incarcerated even for a short period of time. There's a trauma that affects the human spirit because it's such a alien environment. It's something that isn't right, and so it resonates in a really dissonant way. So it starts to disrupt you from the inside out, almost like a microwave cooking you like a potato. And I think what happens is the longer somebody's exposed to it, whether it's like in my case where I was in and out of it for over 6 years, but fortunately I never did hard time, and my incarceration taste was a number of times, but not a huge amount of time. But what happens is the longer you're there, the more toxic it is, and it's got an accumulative effect. And just simply like you said, being in a place where the nutrition isn't present, the ability to sleep isn't present, the ability to even relax, like you can't let your guard down when you're incarcerated, because at any second something could happen, and might, and probably will. And whether it's coming from a guard or somebody next to you or some unknown, who knows, you're on a sense of high alert all the time. And the cost of that, the cortisol levels being constantly taxed, I believe is hugely detrimental to our immune system.
Great points. All of it so important. Jackie, do you have any thoughts about this? Is a health crisis being created because of all of these points that we're talking about? What are your thoughts?
I was reflecting as Joe was speaking about my history, and it started in Orange County in the early 90s. I started working at the motels around Disneyland, and the disparity there was so insane. The cops would show up and they would ask me, does your mom know you work here? Do your parents know you work here? Because of what we witnessed, at that time. You have this clash of, just like local trauma mixed with the tourists, and you're trying to hide them from each other. Like, don't send the tourists down this row of rooms, excuse me, keep them up front. And this week is supposed to be the week to remember, where we're trying to abolish this whole system. And the biggest part of this is the legalization, the full legalization. A big country just legalized today, I heard. So the ball is rolling, and we can't get there until this all comes together at the same time. So we're like rolling into home base here.
Craig, what are your thoughts about this?
As you know, I look at it from a different perspective. In 2002, I was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and spent the next 19 years until actually a year ago, January 20th, when I was released from prison. But I served that time in our nation's high security federal prisons. I can't tell you how many people I saw killed. I was actually part of ordering some of them to be killed, just because that's the nature of survival in those kind of environments. So there is no such thing as relaxing. There is no such thing as, not worrying what's behind you and that. So federal prison is, stressful. It's, even if you're sitting down just waiting for the end of your sentence, it's very stressful knowing that somebody with a mental illness could attack you any minute. An officer with a mental illness,
Right.
those kind of places are full of those.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. And as Joe was talking about, just the lengthy fight or flight that you're in for all those years, if none of these other factors were true, but except that would be enough to take years off your life and make you unwell.
Absolutely. I'm 62 years now, 62 years old. The life expectancy for a prisoner is up to 72 years. And surprisingly, with my 19 years in prison and with all the health disorders I'm suffering right now from the lack of medical care throughout those 19 years in prison,
Mhm.
I'm going to be lucky to make it to that 72 years old. So
Wow.
yes, I see every day, what happens to people in prison is it truly does detract not only from their quality of life in the prison, but their lifespan itself.
Yeah, for some reason in this country, it seems like, you're given a sentence, you serve time, and somehow that equals abuse, in my opinion. What are your thoughts about that, Candace?
We end up putting these nonviolent criminals in prison with these violent criminals and turning them into violent criminals and then releasing them. And there's got to be a change. There's got to be, a separation between the nonviolent weed or traffic offender, you know what I mean, and the murderer, rapist person that we all, believe deserve to be in there. But
Mhm.
people don't understand that people are going in there for little bitty things and coming out with horrible issues and not even getting insulin. Basic human right need, not even
Right.
getting insulin.
Basic medical needs, it seems, are just not addressed, poor food, poor ventilation. We just have been in the midst of this pandemic all this time. When I think about people all in together, incarcerated, it just, it seems inhumane at this point in time, particularly for people who are not violent, you know. So I'm going to move on to the next question, and it's got to do with women. When I was looking up statistics, I was just actually, it made me cry, to be quite honest, because 1/3 of the female prisoners in the world that are incarcerated right now are in the US. 1/3 of all female prisoners in the world. Women are more likely to enter incarceration if they have a history of trauma and mental health conditions. 86% of women in prison have experienced sexual violence. What are your thoughts, Joe? I'm going to turn to you first. How does this affect our families, our family unit? The woman is often the center of the family, and yet 1/3 of the female prisoners in the world in the US are incarcerated. What are your thoughts about this?
When you look at inner cities and places where the incarcerated population is higher, probably just because the amount of people is higher, but certainly those numbers go up, you start looking at a cycle that starts to happen. And I think that that's the biggest element of it. So now here we are 5 generations later. What do we have? We have generations of families that way, because you grow up without parents. What are the odds that you're going to have a family without parents? It's pretty
Right.
high.
Right. Or even that modeling of family, it's taken away.
Right.
And I hear people speak a lot about fathers being pulled from the family, but I haven't heard a lot about this side of it, because the women's prison population has been going up too. Candace, what are your thoughts?
Well, okay, so the whole family dynamic is being ripped apart, and it's all for nonviolent issues. And when we talk about a family being ripped apart, we talk about the mom who makes dinner and cares for the kids and tends to their boo-boos, and the dad who works his butt off, in some cases, the mom that works their butt off trying to make their family live. We take these people because of a plant or any nonviolent crime and put them in jail. And then we say the statistics for kids not doing good with dads that are missing. And we say, but they're all in the prison system. They're missing because they're in the prison system for nonviolent issues.
Right.
Like,
It just, yeah, it
now,
makes absolutely no sense, when we talk about the severity of the crime and then just the complete damage to the family unit, the children suffer. And, that's really, what we're talking about and what we're hoping to make some change with. My final question is about recidivism, which we brought up a little bit earlier. Um, Once an individual has been incarcerated, the likelihood they'll return is 50% nationwide. 50%. 2 out of 3 people are rearrested within 3 years of becoming free. And so the Human Solution International has a project to mentor people and help them to be successful in their freedom. And I want to talk about that now, because certainly if people are going to get out, the last thing we want is for them to return and continue this cycle. So, Joe, tell us your thoughts about this and why you wanted to start this program and what your hopes are for it.
Well, I think that prison is supposed to be a temporary situation, even in the best of examples. So for people who are unwilling or unable to exist in a community in a way that's not harmful to it, well, that's where prisons come in, to keep them separate. But the idea was never really as a permanent situation. And most importantly, it would make no sense at all if you went out and then had to come back. That's completely contrary to any sense. And so I think what happens, though, is I always equated it to what an ant trap. There's a creature called an antlion, and it digs a hole in the sand, and it lures these ants to come down, and then they hit a certain spot and they slide on down, and he just opens up his mouth and eats them. If you spend time in a court, it's kind of like that. It's like a vacuum cleaner. It just sucks them in. Once you get into that system, it's harder and harder to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have done, and Craig's been a huge part of understanding the need because of his direct experience with it, is we created a safety net. And it's not just a financial safety net, but it's a real human being safety net that says, all right, you're going to be coming out, or hopefully we get to talk to you before you come out. But if not, you just got out. What do you know? What do you have? Do you have a plan? Do you have anything going on? Because most of the time people come out, they don't have anybody to help guide them. We're creating a system where there's a liaison, a buffer zone of people who have experienced both sides. And we can kind of translate what the new world is like a little bit, diagnose or triage immediate needs, provide resources. And I think that that in it of itself, I think, is going to be huge, as long as we have a willing participant, somebody who doesn't want to go back in. Or if you have a mental illness or a situation that could be treated, that's I think another huge reason why you have recidivism, because we have a huge amount of people that are incarcerated that have mental illness issues that are not correctly treated. So I think just being able to identify potential problems and at least have some kind of resources to get them on the right path and provide some of the most immediate needs, so they don't fall into that ant trap right away and you'd have to make a series of bad choices to go back.
Right. It seems like since you were through your show, Cup of Joe, you had several people that you would interview, and you yourself experienced incarceration. So it seems like you really understand the problem, and can formulate a program that will really put people on the track to not return and stop adding to that statistic. So Jackie, you have been really involved in developing this program. What are your thoughts about it, and why did you want to get involved?
We have been working on the Great Awakening in our society for since 2017. Actually, every bomb started going off And so innately, as sovereign beings, we're not criminals. So we have been under this evil system that had us all convinced that we were some kind of criminal and that we belonged in there. And so it's just going around waking people up, telling them, you've been under this evil spell. We're trying to get everyone out. And what can we do to do this? And so it's on a supernatural level now. And so just waking everyone up out of a slavery system has been very hard, but I love how we always end on hope and that we see the need, and it's so effective now, and the networks that we have, and just watching it come to life is very amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Craig, what are your thoughts about the community reentry program and your involvement, and what would you like to see happen?
Again, before my arrest, my business, I used to hire people who were in the halfway house to help them, learn how to have a job and to get them some money in their pocket and all that, to help them in their reentry. And I really thought I had an understanding of reentry. That was until a year ago when I started living reentry. And it's amazing the difference. I realize now that I had no understanding, and really people at large don't have an understanding. Imagine getting out of prison and I didn't even recognize money. I had to really sit down and read the paper money to figure out what it was, especially the coins.
Right, that's a lot of
I mean-
change. I never thought about that. So many things have changed in 20 years, including the money. Right.
And like I said, when we drove out the front gate of the prison, my daughter handed me a flat thing that I just put in my lap. She said, well, go ahead and talk. And I said, we are talking. And she pointed, no, talking to that. I had no idea a flat thing could be which was an iPhone.
Right.
I had no idea that would be a telephone. A telephone didn't look like that.
So your feeling is this is really essential, what's being created?
It's
kind of-
essentially to keep people from going back to prison. The
Mhm.
reason why 2/3 of people go back to prison is they really have no other option. Because they can't make a living. They can't, get housing. They can't, even provide clothing for themselves.
Right.
So unfortunately, most times in one way or another, they return to crime, or they just don't act the way they should to survive on parole or the equivalent. And that's why they end up going back to prison.
Right.
And I've seen countless people leave prison and come back.
Right, so you saw it firsthand, and this program that we're all creating is really that safety net that's needed. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Candis?
Yes, exactly. When you said safety net, I picture firefighters with that net catching the people jumping out the window, except we've got that net and we're catching the people that are being thrown out on their ass after being slave labored and treated badly and come out with PTSD. And so it's so important. People don't realize they come out on probation and parole sometimes. Both those places expect money every time you go in. Well, he's got to get a car to make sure he can get back and forth to those places so that he can be there on time. If he's somebody who can't get a job because he doesn't have a driver's license yet, so he has to get all that. So we would be helping in that case, get him his driver's license, his ID, his all that stuff so that he can get a job and then pay these dues. But see, this is why people go back, because all this is very overwhelming, especially to a person with PTSD.
And I think we've answered the question, is a health crisis being created? In every way, really, everything we talked about. And so I'm so excited to be a part of this, to work with all of you. You're amazing people who are really interested in humanity. When we talk about all of this stuff, what comes to my mind is this prison system dehumanizes people. And that's part of the problem with the stigma as well. People in communities, like we said in the beginning, someone said, oh, well, they deserve to be there because they committed a crime, so changing that mindset, I think, is also part of this community reentry, educating the public about it. And thank you all for all of the hard work that you're doing. Joe, if you could give the links for people to the website, the organization, if they want to get involved, if they want to donate, if they want to learn more, where should they go?
We've entered the 21st century. We've got a great little website. We're connected to social media, and it's thsintl.org. And again, thsintl.org. And from there, there's all the links, but you can hashtag the Human Solution International, and it'll show up a number of social media links, things like that. Through those, it's a pretty simple task to reach out and let us know that you want to help. Volunteering, time, talent, treasure, any resource that could be useful, we have a use for it, and we can put yours to good use.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for joining me.
Miss Teddy here with Your Food is Medicine. This episode, we are talking about plant prisoners. This means people doing federal time for this wonderful plant we call cannabis. We are also talking about the health that are in our federal prisons. And I really don't think that we can stay healthy and keep our immune systems up with the food that the federal prisons feed their prisoners. For breakfast, they are offered milk, a Danish, cereal, hot or cold. And then the other two meals, they are offered things like hot dogs, burritos, tacos, hamburgers, fish patties, lasagna, for example. And they get water and a mixed flavored drink. So they are only offered milk in the morning. And then for the other three, for all three meals, they are offered water and flavored drink. There is no way that you can stay healthy with all this processed food and all this sugar that they are having our prisoners digest. For more information on Food is Medicine, please feel free to contact me at Learn From Teddy on Facebook. Thank you.
Well, it was really my honor to sit and chat with Joe Grumbine and the rest of the people from the Human Solution. I've been working on that project with them, the mentoring and community reentry, and it brings a lot of hope. But the best thing would be to end cannabis prohibition.
Yes.
And no one else in jail for a plant.
Please. Hey,
Right.
by the way, Miss Teddy is just spectacular. If you follow her on any TikToks or Instagrams, you know, she does a lot of making fun of me, and it is epic every time. We've done these little promos for our show. It's been hilarious. So shout out to Miss Teddy. She's absolutely hilarious.
She really is. Sometimes unexpected humor too. So yeah, definitely take a look at her TikTok. I love what she's doing with your transitions.
It's epic. You got to see some of those, and definitely follow her on TikTok. It's worth a follow for sure.
For sure. So what have you been watching?
You know, we always ask this on the weekly, and I make it a point to try to watch something. I was watching a little bit of a older movie, the newer Jumanji, #1, the first one. But I wanted to bring up a scary movie that is not, it's supposed to be a scary comedy. And you probably remember way back in the day, Scream. They have a brand new one out.
You're talking to someone who like avoids scary like it's the plague.
So you just don't want scary in your life at all. It's like not even movies. It's
right. I really try. But so I don't know much about Scream. Like I saw Scream, and that there's that mask, right?
yes.
And I walked the other way. Like,
and the call is coming from inside the house, that kind of thing.
Yes.
What made you scared of movies? Let's back this up, Wendy. What made you like? Did you watch a scary movie when you were a kid, like Psycho or something, and lost it, or what happened?
Well, what happened was, you're gonna find this really funny. I was a young, I don't know how old I was. It was before I was a teenager though, and or right around there. And I watched Bambi, and
that frightening movie.
And something about the fire and like people, like them dying, it just was like, I mean, I sobbed about it. And my mother said to me, I don't think you should ever watch anything scary because this really was not that scary. And
It's the very beginning of the movie too. Like it's the very beginning.
and when your mom says something like that to you, like if you really look up to your mom and love your mom, I just took it to heart. And I think about that because I probably missed some really quality films that have.
You definitely have.
Scary.
You definitely have. And some of them are, but not that funny. That's hilarious that your mom did that. My mom told me not to get tattoos because they were, to do that. And I don't have any tattoos.
Well, see, so you understand, what your mom says,
Yeah, my mom says, and I'm pretty good at following that stuff, except for like just a couple of years ago. She looked at me when we were having this discussion. She goes, "Why don't you have any tattoos?" I'm like, "Mom, you told
she
me
probably
not to
forgot.
take any tattoos." She was just actually genuinely, confused as why I didn't have a tattoo. I was like, "You told me."
Right, right.
I'm encouraging you. It's a little comedy, a little bit of both. That's what it is. A little bit of the thrill. It's not like Bambi's dying. It's that annoying teenager. It's
okay.
different.
That's a little different.
It's not Baby's dad. Sorry, it's not dad or mom or whoever died.
Right.
I forgot who that is. But it's more of it's more funny. And I think that this new cast is the older cast. Some of the same cast is coming back from the original, and highly recommend it. Highly.
Okay.
Recommend it. We're gonna
I
give
will
it
check
one
it out.
bud.
One bud. All right.
Just
Well,
one.
I love comedies, like comedies that actually make you laugh. This nowadays, those are hard to find, right? So maybe the combination, I'll enjoy it and we'll go from there. Angela got me to watch a couple of really old horror films that it turns out
scarier sometimes.
Well, this really wasn't, The Shining. It's really not that scary, but at the time when they came out, I never would, I didn't see them. I never would have.
Right. And they make those previews and all that stuff so scary too.
They do.
You kind of get into it. It's more of a guy losing his mind than anything, really.
Right.
But some of these other ones, I can understand, like, there are some scary movies out there that that you definitely want to avoid. But
I don't like the gory, so a thriller I don't mind as much, but when it gets really gory,
like some Jasons or Freddys, you're not
I'm gonna shut down. I'm done with that.
Do you hide your eyes or you just run out of the room? Which one do you do?
I close my eyes.
Close your eyes. All right.
Yes. If I'm in a theater, like no one would know, that my eyes are closed.
Yeah, you're just closing your eyes. I'm watching. I love it. Well, maybe we watch a scary movie sometimes and maybe just get some video of you watching the whole thing. That might be.
There you go. Yes, it'll be very healing. And, my mother also told me not to get any tattoos, and I have 3. So, I'm not sure why the statement about Bambi, just went right into my heart.
And I said the same thing. And now I realize that it's not just that my mom told me about the tattoos, is that I'm so fickle and indecisive.
Right.
I don't know if every day I'd be something change, I'd be the guy with the barbed wire around his arm, and the tribal tattoo. I would be that guy because I have no idea what I want for a tattoo on my life, but for the rest of my life, which I think that's what keeps me from doing it.
Right. Well, that's very true. You're going to have to look at it, unless it's somewhere where you don't have to look at it, I guess. But
yeah, exactly. On my face. I'm going to go. Just go right here.
There you go.
We've
solved the problem. Well, coming up next, Dr. Brian Nickel will pair a cannabis strain with our musical guest.
I'm Dr. Brian Nickel, your cannabis expert for CannabisExpertMD.com, with a music and cannabis pairing for the Wendy Love Edge Show. Wendy's musical guest this week is Ari Charbonneau from Boston, Massachusetts. Ari has more than 25 releases under her belt on Bandcamp. I listened to Crystal Clear off the last year's Whisper album. It's a very, very nice recorded song, not overly produced. Just Ari and the acoustic guitar with overlay backup vocals on top of that, singing about the point in our lives where we see things for what they really are. For this, I was looking for a strain that might help a little bit with the anxiety experience as you see things as they really are, and help give you some optimism for the future. I selected, based on the cannabinoid and terpene profiles available to me as I always do, Natural State Medicinal Sour Tangy. Sour Tangy is a potent strain at 18.5% THC. A little bit of trace CBD is present. Looking at the terpene levels, it's very potent at 2.58%. It is terpinolene dominant at 0.73%. Next up is beta-caryophyllene, about an equal 0.61%, and a very potent myrcene component at 0.56%. Linalool, limonene, and humulene, they're kind of tied up. They're right at about 0.16% to 0.22%. And pinene makes a showing at 0.08%. The terpinolene is going to give you a nice, relaxing, chill base. Should help with some of the anxiety you may feel as you see things as they really are. The beta-caryophyllene, that's going to help with any depressive symptoms you might be having. Now, the myrcene, it's again going to give you kind of a little quick cerebral high as it aids the THC effect before it settles in to give you a nice kind of relaxing base with the terpinolene. The linalool and limonene, they come in to give a bit of a mood lift, help with anxiety, and give a nice, relaxing, sedating base. The little bit of pinene showing in there, it might give you just a little bit of energy and focus. It's not in a high enough percentage relative to the other terpenes to really worry about anxiety in most patients that are so disposed. Now, this should be just the ticket to take the edge off of seeing things crystal clear and plotting your new course for the future. For more information on all things medical cannabis, have a look at us at CannabisExpertMD.com. We're also available on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Cannabis Expert MD. Now I present to you Ari Charbonneau with Crystal Clear.
So baby, now let's get one thing straight. Got no time to waste. Got no time to waste. Yeah, and when it all went crystal clear, all my regrets and fears up in my rearview mirror. Where did it all go wrong? Where did it all went crystal clear? A part of everything, part of the atmosphere. Where did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong? Yeah, so I wanna ride just like a wave, crashing endlessly into eternity. Feel me? I wanna see just crystal clear, just gazing endlessly into infinity. It's all a part of me. Don't believe in fate. It's all what I create. It's all what I create. Yeah, so when did it all go wrong? End up in a song where it don't belong. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? I'm feeling crystal clear. So where do we go from? Where do we go from? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from right now? I'm feeling crystal clear. Just feeling crystal clear. Where do we go from here? Rising like a setting sun. A part of everything. A part of everyone. I wanna be just as I am, changing endlessly. Ain't nothing wrong with me. Where did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong? Oh, where did it all go wrong? Where do we go from here? I'm feeling crystal clear. Where did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong? End up in a where it don't belong. Where do we go? Where it don't belong. Where did it all go wrong? Where do we go from here? I'm feeling crystal clear.
This is Mile High News on the Wendy Love Edge Show, and I'm your host, Candis Dyer. Today's cannabis news is about Louisiana Senate candidate Gary Chambers. He lit up the internet last week with a campaign ad focused on one issue, the injustice of nonviolent cannabis arrest. I, for one, give this man a standing ovation. It's a breath of fresh air to see a candidate finally take a bold stand against cannabis prohibition. It affects so many people, not just the offender, but their kids, spouses, and family members. We have to look at the long-term effects of the families who have been affected by this. Cannabis has never killed anyone, yet the effects of cannabis prohibition have. We put these non-violent people in prison where they are denied medical attention. That's right. There are people in prison who are not given their life-saving medicine, insulin, and they need that to survive. That's just one example. We are taking nonviolent people and putting them directly into the middle of a war. Yes, a war. Prison has its own set of rules. The inmates are ones who make them and not the guards. In a lot of cases, the guards help the inmates enforce these rules, or they look away and don't do nothing about it. They are forced to either submit to these rules or be punished by abuse or torture. An estimated 4.0% of state and federal prison inmates and 3.2% of state jail inmates reported experiencing one or more incidents of sexual victimization by another inmate or staff member. We don't feed these inmates properly. Dogs eat better than they do. In cold climates, they don't turn up the heat, and in warm climates, they don't turn on the AC, and they're forced to work slave labor. Speaking of slave labor, the inmates are made to work long hours that on the outside would be illegal, but they're paid only pennies for it. I know many of you are shaking your heads and saying, they're criminals. They belong there. They deserve this treatment. Fraud or tax evasion? How many of you have thought about cheating on your taxes? Or what if you could? Bam, you just got 5 years in prison. How many of you have had a few drinks at the park or in your front yard with your buddies? Bam, if you've been caught more than once, that's 180 days in jail for public intoxication. How many of you have taken a prescription med your doctor gave you that you take daily and you don't really think affect the way you drive? Bam, you just got 2 years in prison. How many of you have given or taken a prescription medication that wasn't yours? Bam, you are now a drug dealer or a consumer, and you could get 1 to 20 years in prison. The average American breaks at least 3 federal laws a day unknowingly. The point is that this could be you. Do you think you could handle life behind bars? Because right now, there are still people in prison for life for a plant. If you ask me, I wish more candidates like Gary Chambers would speak up and help fight this cause. To me, he's a hero. We have to make a change and undo all the wrong done by cannabis prohibition. With the amount of legal dispensaries, we are making billions of dollars, and we need to release all cannabis inmates now. The damage has been done by prohibition, and it will never be fixed fully, but at least we can start the healing process. Here are a few of the statistics that were being read as he was doing his campaign message. Every 37 seconds, someone is arrested for possession of cannabis. Since 2010, police have arrested an estimated 7.3 million Americans for violating cannabis laws, over half of all drug arrests. African Americans are 4 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis laws than white people. States waste $3.7 billion enforcing cannabis laws every year. Most of the people police are arresting aren't dealers, but rather people with small amounts of pot, just like me. This has been a Mile High News Report on the Wendy Love Ed Show, and I'm your host, Candis Dyer. Peace. Stay lit, everyone.
Well, it's been a great show. Do you have any final thoughts about prisons, health and wellness?
You know, we know this. I think everyone knows that the prison system has got some flaws, to say the least. And we gotta really not be out of sight, out of mind with the people that are out of prison. I think that we need to really have some empathy with people that are going through it, and thinking about these people that are locked up that are going through this stuff. If it was you, having some empathy and really knowing that this system is really flawed and doing something about it.
We definitely have some work to do. I hope more people will be interested in getting involved with the Human Solution International and other organizations that are actually doing something about this very huge and complicated problem.
Well, Wendy, I'm going to go try these hot Cheeto tamales. I saw the recipe this guy did for all these prison recipes, and I'm starving.
You're inspired.
I want to get some Cheese Whiz, some Cheetos. I'm going to make some of this food. He does an excellent job. I'm going to share that. We got to share a link to this guy because he's absolutely amazing with the prison food. This dude can open a restaurant outside of prison.
A little known fact about me, one of my guilty pleasures is Cheetos. So I might have to take a look at that. I never thought I'd be saying that here.
Or a puffy Cheeto?
Oh, puffy for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Same.
We can still be friends.
Yes, yeah. Baked puffy, white cheddar, the best, those natural ones.
Oh, I love those.
I've not tried them. They're so addictive.
They are. They're a little better for you. A little better.
Just a little bit. They're natural.
There you go. So is arsenic. Oh no.
That's right. That's true. Wendy Love Edge will always give us a stoner tip at the end of the show. Like, listen, you're gonna need to eat those puffy Cheetos. I love it, Wendy. I love it.
Just balance it out with some vegetables or a big glass of water. There you go. Well, have a great week, everyone. Bye. The Wendy Love Edge Show is sponsored in part by Caris Healthcare, the Relevant app, Lit Premium Smoking Supplies, 131 Inclusion Gallery, Irie Bliss Wellness, Lindsay Camp, and Synergy One Lending.